I still remember the exact moment my mother looked me in the eyes and said, "Sweetheart, you're just a receptionist. Stop pretending it's something more." Her words landed like ice on my chest. I was sitting at our old family dinner table, the same one where I'd once dreamed aloud about becoming a doctor. My sister smirked into her wine glass. My father just sighed, like he'd given up on me years ago. And I smiled softly, nodded, and passed the potatoes. Because they had no idea. For the last 6 years, I had been Dr. Elena Hayes, Chief of Neurosurgery at St. Mercer's Hospital, the youngest chief in the hospital's history. The one surgeons flew in from other states to consult with. But to my own family, I was still the girl who answers phones at the front desk. I chose to keep it that way. Every morning I'd put on my white coat, walk past the reception area where I used to work as a real receptionist 10 years ago, and head straight to the OR. But when I came home, I never corrected them. I wanted to see how long it would take for them to believe in me without the title. Turns out they never did. That night after dinner, my mother pulled me aside. "Elena, your sister just got promoted again. Maybe you should ask if they need help in billing? At least it's something." I swallowed the lump in my throat and said, "Maybe, Mom." But what I didn't know that evening was that everything was about to change. 2 weeks later, my phone rang at 3:17 a.m. It was my father, voice shaking so badly I could barely understand him. "Elena, it's your mother." She collapsed. "They're rushing her to St. Mercer's. The doctors are saying something about her brain, a bleed. They need a neurosurgeon right now." I stood in my dark apartment, already pulling on my scrubs. "I'll be there," I whispered. As I drove through the empty streets, my hands were steady on the wheel, but my heart was breaking in 1,000 pieces. The same woman who called me just a receptionist was now fighting for her life, and only I could save her. When I reached the hospital, chaos had already taken over the ER. My sister was crying in the waiting room, mascara running down her face. My father paced like a ghost. The on-call resident was explaining the scans in panicked medical terms. Subarachnoid hemorrhage. "It's massive. We've paged the chief, but he's stuck in surgery across town. We don't know if she'll make it through the night." My sister grabbed my arm. "Elena, you work here, right? Can't you talk to someone? Do something useful for once?" I looked at her tear-streaked face and felt something inside me shift. I walked straight to the charge nurse and said quietly, "Page the team." "I'm scrubbing in." She blinked. "Dr. Hayes, I didn't realize you were on call tonight." Within minutes, the entire floor knew. Nurses who knew me as the calm, kind chief started moving with purpose. Residents who trained under me straightened up. But my family still didn't understand. My father stopped me right before I entered the OR corridor. "Elena, what are you doing? This isn't the time to play nurse. Your mother needs a real doctor." I turned around slowly. For the first time in years, my voice didn't shake. "Daddy, I am the real doctor." The look on his face, confusion mixed with disbelief, will stay with me forever. My sister actually laughed through her tears. "Come on, this isn't funny. Stop wasting time." But there was no more time. I walked into the operating room, and the moment the doors closed behind me, everything else disappeared. It was just me, my mother's scans glowing on the screen, and the tiny, fragile vessels bleeding in her brain. For the next 7 hours, I fought for her life with every skill I possessed. My hands, the same hands my mother once said were only good for filing paperwork, carefully clipped the aneurysm, evacuated the clot, and repaired what most surgeons would have called impossible. While I operated, I kept hearing her voice in my head. "You're just a receptionist. Maybe try billing. Your sister is the successful one." Every cut I made was precise. Every decision was calm. And with every passing minute, the little girl who once begged for her mother's pride grew quieter inside me, replaced by the woman who no longer needed it. When I finally walked out of the OR, the sun was rising. My scrubs were soaked with sweat. My team clapped as I passed. They knew what I had just done. My family rushed toward me. My father's face was pale. "Is she?" "She's stable," I said quietly. "The surgery went better than expected. She should make a full recovery." My sister stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. How? How did you know what to do? I looked at both of them for a long moment. Because I'm the chief of neurosurgery here. I have been for years. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. My father's knees actually buckled. My sister covered her mouth, fresh tears falling, this time from shame. All those years of sideways glances, dismissive comments, Sunday dinners where I was the family joke, it all crashed down on them in that hallway. My mother woke up 3 days later. The first face she saw was mine. She tried to speak, but the tube was still in. I gently squeezed her hand. "It's okay, Mom. You're going to be fine. I made sure of it." When she was finally able to talk, the first thing she said, voice cracking, was, "I called you. Just a receptionist." "My God, Elena, all this time?" I smiled through my tears. "Yes, Mom." "All this time?" She cried then, real heavy sobs that shook her fragile body. She kept apologizing over and over. My sister and father joined in, their pride finally broken. I didn't yell. I didn't throw their words back in their faces. I simply let them feel the weight of what they had done. Because the sweetest revenge isn't loud. It's quiet. It's walking into the room as the person they never believed you could become, and saving the very life that doubted you. Today, my mother calls me Dr. Hayes. My sister asks for my advice. My father tells everyone his daughter is a neurosurgeon, but I still remember the girl they tried to shrink. And I forgive them. Not because they deserve it, but because holding on to their betrayal would only poison the hands that are meant to heal. If you've ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to love you most, keep going. One day they'll need the very light they tried to dim.